I am Noah Arceneaux, a professor of media studies at San Diego State University, and I'm making this video. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I'm just making this video about my collection of Star Trek comic books, specifically the Gold Key Star Trek comic books. This was the original Star Trek comic book. Started coming out in 1967. Actually went all the way up to 1979, which is much later than I would have originally believed that this comic series existed. Anyway, about 3 years ago, I decided to start collecting this stuff. There's definitely a nostalgia factor. I grew up on reruns of the original Trek, and I do remember, I'm of the age, or I do remember when these Gold Key comic books were on sale. I don't remember actually owning them or maybe owning too many of them when I was a kid, but it certainly brings me back to that time of life. So when I decided I wanted to collect every issue because the covers are just so wicked cool, took me about 3 years to piece them together. I was going to flea markets and comic shops and thrift stores and looking on Craigslist and eBay and Facebook comics groups, any place where you might conceivably buy comics. I could have just bought them all at once, but where's the fun in that? So it was more fun to kind of piece them together. And two things I want to say is I'm not a quality crank. It doesn't have to be 9.8 near mint graded in a slab for me. If the comic is complete, if the cover is intact without, serious rips or tears, I'm good enough with that. That was able to keep the cost down. So it was, relatively affordable to put this collection together. And then I also want to acknowledge two websites that I looked at. This particular website right here, the Star Trek Comics checklist, was very helpful and helping me find information. Or if I saw a cover, like if I'm looking at eBay and I see a cover, someone selling a Star Trek comic book, maybe they didn't list the issue, I would go here to figure out, okay, what issue is that? And then this site right here, which is a complete guide, it kind of goes in depth to the storyline and really breaks down each individual issue. I found these two very helpful, so I just wanted to acknowledge that. And here is the box where I store my Star Trek comics. I probably could do a better job of preserving them, and maybe I'm not up to the archival gold standard, but this is what it is. And originally I did have Micronauts comics in the same box, and then the Star Trek comics were accumulating so fast I had to move the poor Micronauts to another box with other comics as well. The Star Trek comics take up at least the first half of this, maybe the first 60 to 70% of this box. And then after that, I've got some Marvel Star Trek comics that came out after the first movie. Then I've got some DC Star Trek comics in there. And I also have 3 issues of what are called Enterprise logs. These are reprints of the original Gold Key Star Trek comics. I got these 3 books from my friend Devlin, who runs Bizarro Wuxtree. Thank you very much, Devlin. Okay, without further ado, let's start looking at the comics. Issue number 1, I was able to get this for a pretty good price. When I started collecting, when I realized I was going to collect all the Star Trek comic books here, I knew 1 was the most expensive. I figured that would be the last one to get, but I managed to get it for a decent price, not best condition, but whatever, I got it. And the funny thing about these early issues is that the people who were writing the stories were not familiar with the series, and there's some pretty big discrepancies between these comic books and what you might see on the TV show. At the end of issue number 1, the Enterprise blows up this alien planet because the threat is so severe that the only way to extinguish a threat is to blow up the planet. That's not the kind of thing that you would see, not the kind of, positive ethical actions you would see in Star Trek. And then there's some other differences as well. At a certain point, I started to put stickers on the comics or on the bags that hold the comics, because I wanted to know where I got them from, maybe a date I got them, or maybe the store I got them from. I got more than a dozen, maybe even like 15 to 20 all at once. A guy in Mojave, California, out in the desert, was selling a big box of Gold Key comics, including Star Trek. There was Space Family Robinson, Turok, Magnus Robot Fighter, just a whole bunch. I mean, a few hundred of these, and I bought them all at once. So that was really cool to get all of them at once. And here we have issue number 8. Now, issue number 8, the first copy I got, I paid just a few bucks for it, and it came inside of a plastic bag that you would put in like a little kid's school binder or something, and it's scribbled all over. I mean, literally, I paid a couple of bucks for this. But I was a little frustrated, you know. I mean, I don't care too much about quality, but the scribbling, that was a bit much even for me. So someone else months later on eBay is selling a lot of Star Trek comics. Not a lot meaning many, but like, you know, a pre-selected bundle. That's what I mean by a lot. And I could see that there was a Star Trek comic in there because I could kind of see by the corner. Lo and behold, I get it. It's another copy of number 8, but it's severely water damaged. So now I have 2 copies of number 8. Neither one are really in the condition that I like, even with my low standards. So I'll be looking to replace that eventually. Another thing I wanted to say is that when I was looking at, you know, I spent so much time online looking at Star Trek comics, I started to recognize certain covers and come up with little nicknames for them, like issue number 42, Screaming Babyface cover, like that cover, and then issue 51, Mr. Whipple. This one proved kind of hard to get, but you know, I eventually got the Mr. Whipple cover. Cover of 7, issue number 7 is really great. I mean, this is just a great issue right here, and lo and behold, I guess the cover was so great it shows up again as number 45. They both have the same cover. Starting with issue 49, this little TV box shows up. Here's actually an image of number 50. I don't know why, but I just took a photo of issue number 50. It's a sort of little TV box showing Spock and Kirk. Here we have it on issue 56, and then issue 59. 59, yeah. Back to nicknames. This is Cro-Magnon Spock. Yeah, I like the cover for issue 59. And the last two covers of Gold Key Star Trek 61, 60, no, was that the last two? 60 and 61. Yeah, 60 and 61 are a different style. They're not the painted covers that we saw previously. They're line art covers. And apparently there was an issue 62 that was planned that didn't come out. You could find it online at one of those 2 websites I showed you earlier. And yeah, it went all the way till 1979, all the way to 1979. And when I was putting together this video and looking at my comics, I recalled that I had this. This is an Italian reprint. I also like to buy foreign language comics. This is an Italian book that reprints one of the Star Trek stories. The reprint also has Magnus Robot Fighter, another thing that I collect, and also a Daniel Boone story as well in there. But now the great question that is vexing to me, these are the kinds of things that keep me awake at night. You know, do I keep this with my box of foreign language comics, or do I shove it in the box of Star Trek comics? This is a pressing question. This is a pressing question. Okay, anyway, that's it. I hope you got something out of it, or maybe learned something, or maybe made you smile a little bit. But yeah, these Gold Key Star Trek books have just really amazing covers. And I find them a lot of fun, and it just, you know, was fun to do. And now I'm going to move on to something else.